Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Tanvi Taneja. US President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that Russian President Vladimir Putin was playing with fire. Trump's latest comments follow some of the biggest drone and missile attacks on Ukraine since the conflict began in early 2022. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, "What Vladimir Putin doesn't realize that if it weren't for Trump, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia." And DD India's Akshay Dongre joins us with more on this story. Akshay, after calling Putin absolutely crazy, Trump is raising the bar here on criticizing Vladimir Putin. Do you think this pressure tactic would work with Vladimir Putin to come to the negotiating table himself?
Well, it doesn't seem like it, Tanvi, because what Donald Trump had assumed as far as his social media outlashes are concerned and the jibes that he has been taking on either Truth Social or X, he thought that threats will make the war stop, or the luring the adversaries with trade, with business is going to change the realities as far as Eastern Europe is concerned. That was the assumption of Donald Trump, but it seems that after about almost half a year of Donald Trump trying to negotiate, trying to lure Russia, or trying to rather convince the adversaries to stop the war, stop the conflict, and do business instead, seems to not have been working as far as the ground is concerned. So this is a setback, especially for Donald Trump, who has been making very, very tall claims when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Ukraine. He has been saying that he can stop the war, or he will be getting the war stopped with business and with trade. However, geopolitics are quite different as far as when on the ground are concerned, because many times much larger stakes than trade and money are involved when it comes to people going all out against each other in face of conflict. And this is what is happening as far as Ukraine and Russia are concerned. So the tensions remain as far as Ukraine and Russia are concerned, while Ukraine expects Russia to give it back the Donetsk, Donbass, Kherson and Luhansk region. But it seems that Russia is in no mood to have any kind of negotiation on returning any of those areas. Plus, it seems that it wants to continue with its offensive till the time surrender by the Ukrainian forces when it comes to these regions, and no attempt or rather a ceasefire based on the fact that Ukraine surrenders these regions to Russia, which has been a very important strategic goal for the Russian Federation. But it seems that these lures and these tactics that have been used by Donald Trump, for which he has taken a lot of credit for, have failed to work, at least in this scenario.
Okay. Trump is considering new sanctions potentially this week, although he said he could still change his mind. But if he does announce sanctions, what could he target now?
Well, first of all, Tanvi, we have to see that this is US President, the world's strongest man. We are talking about, and these kind of statements coming in from the US president show lack of depth and strategy as far as these claims are concerned. Because let's be honest, you can't give a veiled threat and then say you will be changing your mind, as if you're talking to a teenager to try and get them to do something. A lot is at stake here when it comes to the conflict is concerned. Thousands of people have already lost their lives. Thousands of soldiers of both sides have lost their lives. There has been critical damage to infrastructure, which has been worth over several $100 billion. So, a couple of $1 billion and trade is not going to change the realities between the two countries. It's not a small nation of Latin America or Africa Trump is dealing with. It is dealing with the world's largest country. We are talking about the Russian Federation, which was a superpower before 1991, before the disintegration of Soviet Union, which was the primary rival of the USA in the Cold War. So US is not dealing with an adversary which is much smaller than its size, and it can then manipulate it into coming to some terms with its adversary. In the face of some trade coming in. So strategies have to change. And while sanctions, may be announced or may not be announced by the Trump administration, we have seen it in the past that sanctions have failed to work when it comes to larger countries. Russia can very well, start doing business with China and other countries in the region. If US places any major sanctions, anyway, the Russian businessmen are not allowed to do business with Europe in most of the sections. With US, there are already plenty of sanctions there on Russian firms. So we'll see how these veil threats work and whether there is some steps taken by the Russian Federation as well, by Vladimir Putin in the direction of peace. But so far, these tactics have clearly failed to work on the ground.
Okay, thank you very much, Akshay Dongre, with all those updates and analysis.